G'day guys, here is another ranking video. Today I'm going to do the Beatles, one of the most influential bands ever. They don't need any introduction. There's been enough discourse and discussion around them over the last 60 to 65 years, so I don't think I really need to do any of that. This is just simply me ranking my favourites, so I'm going to just start now. So this one here, Yellow Submarine itself, great track. The movie is pretty interesting. It's very, I guess, psychedelic, as was the style at the time. But basically what you have here is one side of Beatles songs, and then the other side is an orchestra, which is the score for the movie. And I don't really think much of the second half of this, but the original songs, there's a good shout out to Only a Northern Song, and It's All Too Much is actually pretty good. They're both George Harrison compositions as well. There's not a lot to say about this. I just have it because it completes a collection. So Yellow Submarine. Okay, this probably won't be too contentious, the start of this, although people have varying opinions about the Beatles, and they always have, and that's what's made them such a good band, is that you're able to scrutinise their work, and what might be your favourite song or album one day might be different the next, so, which is quite interesting. Let It Be. Let It Be is obviously at a time with tremendous turmoil in the group, and that they were trying to make this project that never fully got off the ground, but the recording sessions as a result of that were made into this. And on the whole, it's not a good album to really sit through. It has some great tracks on it. You know, you've got Two of Us, Across the Universe, I've Got a Feeling, Long and Winding Road. In between that, you've got a lot of guff, like you got like For You Blue and One After 909. It's just kind of whatever. Like they're just lots of like sort of really I don't know, cardboardy rock and roll kind of tracks that just don't really do much for me. But like the bulk of the album is pretty listenable, but you can find this in probably a better sequence on the Let It Be Naked version, which I have somewhere, but I'm not going to get it out, can't be bothered. But the Let It Be Naked version is like a grey cover, and it looks like this, except they're like film negatives. So basically what they did was they took all Phil Spector's orchestration out, and and they rearranged the tracks. Having said that though, like, it's still Let It Be, it's just without the strings. So when you look at that, these iconic photos, saw her standing there, Chains, oh, Misery's great, yeah. Love Me Do, P.S. I Love You, Do You Want to Know a Secret, Twist. I've never been a huge fan of Twist and Shout, to be honest. There's a Place, that's great. You know, there's lots of sort of pop standards and blues stuff that a lot of these bands used to do. Next I've got is Help, which I consider in the bracket of the earlier albums to be one of the better ones. You've got obviously the Help. You've got to Hide Your Love Away, I Need You, Ticket to Ride, I've Just Seen a Face, Yesterday, yeah, that was on here. That's probably one of the greatest McCartney compositions ever. Yeah, in between that there is stuff, it's like Act Naturally, and yeah, there are more Lennon McCartney compositions on this than there are soundtrack to the one of the few films they did. And there'll be more coming up a bit later on. Help. I am ranking these as per the UK release, because Australia got the UK releases, not the US releases. So if you happen to be somewhere that's not the UK or Australia, you might be thinking, where's Beatles 6 and where's the, all these stuff that came out on Capitol. I'm not going through those, I'm just going through the ones that were available in mono. This is one of my favourite photos, actual band photos of them. I really like them. At the back, look at that. It's good. Yeah, it's got one of these gatefolds, but it's got the little slit, which is pretty cool. Cool design idea there. I think that side one of this might possibly be one of the best sides of Beatles music. So you've got No Reply, I'm a Loser, Babies in Black, Rock and Roll Music, a pretty good cover actually of that. I'll Follow the Sun, Mr. Moonlight, Kansas City. Also have 8 Days a Week, which starts side 2. Every Little Thing's pretty good. And yeah, just there's a couple of, like, Honey Don'ts. It's kind of fun. Of Love, I think that's Buddy Holly composition. Everybody's Trying to Be My Baby, that's a bit whatever. So this was 1964, so they were churning them out quite a bit. Actually, a couple of Japanese pressings. Now whether this is with the Beatles or Meet the Beatles, this might have been one of those variant ones. But I did go through and listen to them. Yeah, it's the With the Beatles album that should be in that place where that Japanese pressing is. But now this would have been available pretty much everywhere. I don't think there was any US, UK variants of these albums coming. So we got Hard Day's Night. This is another soundtrack from a movie that they did. Richard Lester was the director for this film. It's a pretty iconic film in pop culture. I'm not going to say it's a great film as such, as a film, but it's good fun. Everything is their own composition. So this is where they start to get, this is when they start to get cooking quite well. You got Hard Day's Night, Should Known Better, If I Fell. If I Fell was great, a great ballad. Just to Dance With You, and I Love Her, Tell Me Why, Can't Buy Me Love, Anytime at All. Things We Said Today, that's a good track. When I Get Home, You Can't Do That, I'll Be Back. So pretty good. Pretty good. Rightio, here we go. Here's a hot take for you. There we go. The bar is so high for them that, everybody picks apart this band. It's quite fun to do. It's quite fun to argue with people about what the best album is. A lot of people will say it's this. Sort of my counter-argument is just more based on the songs that I would take out rather than, the ones that are sort of classic. Let's go through it. Let's go through the tracks. So you can't get rid of Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band songs. You can't get rid of the introduction and the reprise. You just can't, because that's the whole thing, right? So, and then you've got A Little Help From My Friends, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, and Getting Better, which I consider probably track 1 to 4 is a good punch there. Fixing a Hole is not a great song to me. I've never really jived with it too much. So I will kind of omit that. And She's Leaving Home, I think, is quite good too. Fixing a Hole I would take off. She's Leaving Home. And then we've got For the Benefit of Mr. Kite, which I think is absolute rubbish. But it has a certain charm to it I guess people like. And it's ruined the flow of the track listing. And then we've got Within You, Without You, which is basically a retread of Tomorrow Never Knows in a way. I know that it's not the same song, but its ethos is kind of the same. It's sort of the same sort of thing, dealing with sort of Eastern sounds and Eastern sensibilities of making music. But When I'm 64, again, kind of stands on its own as a song, but on this album kind of slows it down. It's the flow of tracks is what I'm thinking of when I rank them. So I could take that out. Lovely Reader, I could take out as well. So what I guess my opinion is formed around sort of how strong the whole set of songs are, and I've picked 3 or 4 that I wouldn't even have in there. Good Morning, I think is quite interesting, and I love the horns in that. And I would keep that in. Again, the reprise, you need the reprise. And then A Day in the Life is never, I don't think anybody was ever going to dare kind of take that off any album that's released on it. It actually elevates it from being a few ranks back to being sort of where it is now. So, but people love this. People do love this. Rubber Soul. And this is the Dylan influence, the Bob Dylan influence coming through here. You know, they wanted to write music that had some sort of substance. That's a pretty good photo there. But, you know, I think it's pretty interesting. You know, Drive My Car, Norwegian Wood, You Won't See Me, Nowhere Man, Michelle, I'm Looking Through You, that's a brilliant track. In My Life, If I Needed Someone, Run For Your Life is hilarious. It's great. This is a great album. But this is sort of getting into the stuff this is getting into the real good stuff. Here we go, here's another Japanese version of an album that he wrote. I think the reason why this stands up is, yeah, there's a lot of novelty songs in there, but I think it's so consistent that you have to you just have to be in awe of how well that it was put together, considering that I don't think they even wanted to be in the same room together when they were making this. And I won't go into the context because everybody knows all that, but you've got side 1, you've got Come Together, Something, Maxwell Silver Hammer. Again, that's a novelty song, but it works well. You've got Oh Darling, Octopus's Garden, which is great, and I Want You, She's So Heavy, which is got this droning outro that's absolutely amazing. That I don't know, I guess it's like proto stoner metal nearly. And then, you know, on the second side you've got the fantastic medley that they did, but not before you get Here Comes the Sun, that starts out track 2, and that's one of the best George Harrison songs, best Beatles songs. And then you've got, you know, like the Sun King, You Never Give Me Your Money, Polythene Pam, Came In Through the Bathroom Window medley, and then the end, and then the little 20-second ditty at the end, Her Majesty. But this is absolutely brilliant. Here we go. Here's the ones that are like I think are the best, and they might actually be pretty controversial, but I'm gonna go with it. You can probably see in the corner here what the next one is. Revolver. Now, Revolver to me stands pretty tall, and I think why it does is because of what I've said before in the previous ones, is that there's not novelty stuff on this. It's all kind of very serious, but it just expands their songwriting scope again, and it's like how fast they were developing in a space of, 7 or 8 years. They were putting albums out. It's amazing to me. And Eleanor Rigby, I'm Only Sleeping, Love You Too, that's right. Got Yellow Submarine in here, She Said, She Said. Yeah. And Your Bird Can Sing, I have to know, would have influenced the Byrds. I know that they were around the same time as well, but it's just very jangly. Like, they just single-handedly made jangle pop into my life. And then, Tomorrow Never Knows, which is kind of like the first real exploration into sound collage and music concrete that they'd look at a bit later on, but this is absolutely fantastic. This could probably be one. This has been my favourite one before, and it's actually changed multiple times. Okay, here's a compilation album. It's not a compilation album, really. It's more of a soundtrack. Anyway, it's Magical Mystery Tour. This is absolutely brilliant, okay? Absolutely brilliant. The movie, don't worry about the movie. The movie is all over the place, but Beatles. It's not like the Yellow Submarine OST where there's 4 or 5, Beatles songs and then the other side's, an orchestral score. This is all Beatles songs, and it's a good cross between Revolver and Sgt. Pepper's for me. It's a good happy medium between the two. And I think that if you've got songs like this and Magical Mystery Tour, Fall on the Hill, Flying, Blue Jay Way, so there's a psychedelia in there. Your Mother Should Know, which covers sort of like that sort of Paul McCartney, vaudevillian sort of stuff. I'm the Walrus, fantastic. And then side 2 is Hello Goodbye, Strawberry Fields, Forever, Penny Lane, and Baby You're a Rich Man, and then All You Need Is Love finishes it. I mean, what's wrong with that? I don't understand why people don't put this right up there with like Abbey Road and stuff like that. Yeah, it's so good. Alright, my favourite Beatles album, little sort of plain little thing here. It's called The Beatles, but it's also known as the White Album, as people would know. I had a mono copy of this that I sold when I needed some money, but I always had a copy of it in some form. Yeah, it's a cornucopia of things, and that is why it works. It works as this sort of really eclectic idea dump, in a way, of all these things that the individual members were kind of working on at the time, and all put together and just put together in this sort of cauldron of fire. And tensions were pretty high when this was made as well. This is 67, 68, I think. And, you've got some tracks here that I guess people would argue are filler. It goes for a long time. This goes for a long, long time. And the way that I explain this to people is that it's kind of like a mixtape of one of the best bands ever. It starts with Back in the USSR, Dear Prudence, Glass Onion, Obla Di Obla Da. Love that. Probably pretty maligned, that song, but so you start off pretty standard for what they were doing at the time. But once you get further in, Wild Honey Pie is just sort of a, like a 30-second thing where they just repeat Honey Pie, like Bungalow Bill, and so it starts to get kind of more either esoteric or like cerebral as it goes on, because the genres that they're tackling here is, there's Showtime tunes, there's ballads, there's scuzzy rock, there's avant-garde classical, whatever, music concrete with the Revolution 9, like a big sound collage that has no musical structure at all. It's just all these tape machines going together and then making a piece out of that. Rocky Raccoon, I've criticised earlier releases for novelty songs on there, but I think the way that I sort of approach this and listen to this album is I usually put it on and I leave it. I don't really put playlists on of the Beatles and put songs from this off it, even though you could, and you could probably arguably make a more consistent album if you did your own supercut of the White Album and you took out the songs that you didn't like on it. But I think that's defeating the purpose of it, because let's say that say for example that this never came out and that they pulled this from release, and in an alternate universe, and they found the tapes and they were already sequenced in the way that the White Album was made, that they find them years later and they go, this is the Lost Beatles album, you know, and they put it out in this exact order, right? People would be going absolutely mad for it if that happened, you know. They'd be like, oh, look at all the ideas they had, and, you know, nobody would be talking about how it's not a consistent sound. The reason people talk about the White Album is because what it meant for other artists was that it's okay if I do like a rock and roll song on one track, but if I'd like to incorporate a horn section in the next one, or if I'd like to tell a story in a song about a raccoon, well, then I can do that. Yeah, the Beatles have allowed me to have these kind of ideas, and it's opened the gateways for a lot of different things. I will never stop waxing lyrical about the White Album. I think it's fantastic. Long, Long, Long is such a good song. It's unbelievable. It's just so sprawling, and it ends up with Good Night, which Ringo sings, which is such a... people think it's silly, but it's just such a good way to finish the album. You know, it's sort of like maybe like a drug trip. It's like it's opened your consciousness to all these different genres and feelings and things that have been going on. It's just very... mercurial is a good way to describe it. Mercurial. It's mercurial, like all human beings can be. I think this is just music at its finest. And the White Album is my favourite Beatles album. Let me know what you think in the comments. I'd like to hear what you have to say, but this is absolutely the highest level. Thanks so much, and I'll see you in the next video.